Hey there, and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio with me, Stuart Thompson. I don't even know what episode it is anymore, so I'll let you count back and count them. But I don't know, we're around somewhere like 80, somewhere like that. But you're very welcome. And today we are going to be talking about the magic of the barbell. So a lot of people love the barbell. A lot of people hate the barbell. I personally am a massive fan of it. I've always been a fan of it, but more so in recent years, especially since I've started training clients over the last 7, 8 years. It's been really apparent to me just how useful the barbell is in terms of long-term progressive progress. It's not just a matter of, um, you know, you train for 6 weeks or 12 weeks and then suddenly, you don't use it anymore. You can keep using it indefinitely for the rest of your life. So why barbells need to be the backbone of your training is the thought that we are going to dissect today. So if you're someone who trains with us or you've been following for a while, you'd have heard me bang on about this before. But today I really want to dig into why we prioritize barbells in our program. For most people, there are variations, of course, for different demographics, different groups. But we're also going to discuss why exercises, unilateral exercises specifically, things like your Bulgarian split squats, your lunges, your rows, your curls, all those sorts of things, while they're useful and they have a place, they aren't the biggest priority in our programs. And one of the big reasons is because you are only training with us maybe once or twice a week. So we want to give you the best bang for your buck. We want to make sure that you are able to get as much out of the hour session as you can possibly get. Now, we'll also clear up a few myths around unilateral exercises and the obsession with muscle imbalances. This is a huge thing nowadays. Why are people always talking about muscle imbalances? Part of me thinks it's because there's money to be made from it. There's lots of careers that have suddenly sprung up from fixing people's muscle imbalances. And I'm not saying that we don't have muscle imbalances. I am saying that they are over exaggerated, to put it politely. It might ruffle a few feathers, this one, but we'll see how it goes. So let's start really simply. Barbells allow you to lift more weight safely over the longest effective range of motion for the longest period of time. They are the most loadable, trackable, repeatable, scalable tools that we have for building full body strength. They've tried to reinvent the wheel. They've come up with all these variations of bars, and some of them have a place. People who have shoulder mobility restrictions, of course, can use like a Mars bar or a squat safety bar. Absolutely. But let's compare. A Bulgarian split squat, for example. Great exercise. Really, really horrible in a good way. But you can try loading it week in, week out for 5 years and see how you get on. I would imagine after about, I don't know, like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, you'll suddenly hit a wall. And this is all providing that you're not doing barbell exercises. If you get back to a squat or a deadlift, you can train those movements for decades. You can train those right into your 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond and still keep improving if you follow proper form, follow a proper program. And that really matters. Now, obviously, there's a descending amount of strength as we get a lot older. Naturally, we're going to decrease, but we can hold on to it. If we're thinking about people in a younger demographic and their upward trajectory, you can keep training a barbell again and again and again, and you will not hit a wall, at least unless you're not recovering properly. That's a different discussion. Barbells allow for progressive overload much more than other tools, essentially. And this isn't just in theory. We can actually see this in the gym. 60 kilos becomes 65, becomes 70, becomes 100. It's tangible. It's a motivating factor. There's data and there's confidence that comes with that. Whenever you know you can squat 100 kilos and you start at 50, you've doubled it. There's a huge amount of confidence in your own ability, in your own balance, and not just your strength. Whenever you train with a barbell, what are you actually training? If you train a back squat, you're training your entire posterior chain. You're bracing, your balance, your mobility, your hip strength, your core strength, your leg strength, your shoulder mobility. you're also training in between the ears. You're training inside your head because there's a different type of stress that comes with a back squat. When you have to get under that bar, put it in your back, take it out, squat down, and lift it back up again. That's not an easy thing to do when it gets heavy. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of determination in your mind. What about a deadlift? It teaches you to pick heavy things up off the floor properly and powerfully. A strict press or a bench press, it teaches force production, right? It teaches you how to control and lock out your elbows, trains your shoulders, stabilizing them. It forces your body to get better. It forces your mind and your body to sync up. What about the clean? You're combining speed, power, precision, technique under a load and then incrementally loading it. Whenever you combine all of these, they require coordination, stability, and balance across your entire system. It's not just about one limb. It's not just about one muscle group. It's combining your whole body. I think it was Greg Glassman that says the needs of the Olympic athlete and our grandparents differ by degree, not kind. And we fully believe that. Athletes can get a lot out of a barbell, so can your grandparents. And barbells are the ultimate expression of that. Everyone should prioritize getting stronger, and barbells are the most effective way that we can get there. Simple as that. And what about imbalances? This is such a hot topic at the minute, and let's get into it. There's this idea floating around, and I can hear it every single week, that if you've got a left-right imbalance, the answer is to do more single leg stuff, to do more lunges, to do more split squats, single arm rows, all that sort of thing. Because obviously if one leg is weaker than the other, the solution must be to train it more in isolation, right? Makes sense. It makes sense in theory. I get it. I used to believe it as well until I tried to apply it to myself and others. Not quite. Here's the thing. You need to think about the body in terms of it being a system. A barbell trains the system. It exposes imbalances in us. Of course, you can see a bar going up one way and then the other. If there's an imbalance, if one side's stronger than the other, it presents itself very obviously. And maybe as a novice trainer, you would go, imbalance, get back to the dumbbells. But it can also fix them in a more meaningful and appropriate way. And here's how you do it. You go at the rate of your weaker side. So if your right side is stronger and leading the charge in a press, you need to make sure that the barbell is traveling upwards at the same rate as your weaker side. It's as simple as that. And that takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of concentration, but it is the best and most effective way. Because yes, the right side can help stabilize it, but it can also bring it along together, and you're not just making this one feel weak all the time by lagging behind your stronger side. When you squat with a barbell, your body has no choice but to coordinate both sides of the body to balance that load. It forces the weaker side on. You'll feel if you're favoring that one leg. You'll see yourself shifting. If you have a video camera set up, you'll feel the pressure when the weight gets heavier enough. You feel it on one side of your body. You'll see it in your numbers as well. You'll eventually stop. You'll not start. You'll eventually stop progressing. And if you stick with it and train properly, those differences will get ironed out. It's called systemic adaptation. Your whole system adapts if we pay attention to the details, of course. Now, unilateral movements, they can have a role. I use them myself for warm-ups, for prep, for mobility exercises. They're great. They do have a really important role to play in rehab. Whenever you're in a low-skill environment, whenever you're not using lots and lots of weight, but they don't deliver the same strength signal. They don't allow the same loads, and therefore they don't stress the body enough to develop strength or muscle or bone density for that matter. And most importantly, they don't actually translate into real-world transferable strength the same way that a heavy barbell does. And let's not forget that strength is the ability to apply force against an external resistance. That's it. That's the definition. That's the game. Not how fancy or how isolated your exercises are. And that's led down to all sorts of crazy paths. There's some absolute nut jobs out there doing all sorts of crazy exercises that look flashy, look impressive, but they're absolutely worthless. They're a waste of time. I'm not going to name drop anybody, mostly because I can't remember them. I've tried to blot them from my mind. Can you produce more force next month than you did last month? And you should be able to look back in your program and see whether that is the case or not. If the answer is yes, you're getting stronger. If not, what are you doing? The problem with untrainable movements, and what do we mean by untrainable movements? There's some movements that just don't scale. They just don't get stronger quick enough, sustainably enough, and in the long term. Take the Bulgarian split squat. It's brutal. Yep. Absolutely. Humbling. Yep. It hurts. Yep. Absolutely. Ticks all those boxes. But trainable in the long term? Not really, unless you're training your squat and your deadlift. If you're building your squat and your deadlift up, suddenly Bulgarian split squats become an awful lot easier. I said easier, not easy. Please note that. Once you're holding a couple of 20 kgs in each hand, or maybe 30 kgs if you're ambitious, you're at the peak of your powers, right? You're going to start probably running into tendon problems in your knee. Your patellar tendon's probably going to get inflamed. It's probably going to get annoyed. Your grip's going to give out. You're going to have to strap yourself onto the bar. You're probably going to have to end up putting a bar on your back, the rest of the load there, so your hands don't get tired. And that's another more precarious situation, to have a bar on your back and be balancing on one foot over some sort of weird equipment. Stability starts to become the limiting factor, not your leg strength. You'll start wobbling like a little baby deer. Your legs will want to do more, but the setup just can't handle it. The pressure on your joints is probably going to be too much. Same with lunges. At a certain point, the balance demands will outweigh the strength stimulus you're going to get from it. So you get better at not falling over, but you're not really getting any stronger. Does that make sense? What about rows? It's the same story. Fine for accessory work, but if you go too heavy and it becomes a hip hinge with a shrug, it's not a strength movement. It's just not loadable in the same way. If you're trying to row with a dumbbell, it's not the dumbbell row that's going to make you lots and lots stronger. It's going to work your core in a certain way, but things that are going to improve your row are things like your deadlift and your pull-ups, cleans. Those are the big drivers. Those are the needle moving exercises. So whenever you actually go back to do something like a dumbbell row, it's going to be stronger, not because you did the dumbbell row, but because you did the barbell work. It's just not loadable in the same way. Barbells, on the other hand, are practically limitless. You can keep incrementally loading them. You can deadlift 40 or 240 and still keep progressing. If you apply the right stress, get the right amount of recovery, then you will adapt. You can clean 30 kilos or 130 kilos and still be refining, still improving your technique, still improving your strength, your ability to apply force against an external resistance. You can squat, you can bench, you can press for decades and keep getting stronger, moving better, and aging like a fine wine instead of dirty out milk. And in terms of training, we really want to train exercises that are scalable, exercises that are going to keep our clients making progress, because if they stop making progress, that's on us. There's a large amount of it is on us. We want you to keep making progress, and we can just keep changing up the exercises and trick you into thinking that you're making progress, but it's not the same thing, and it's quite dishonest. If there's a reason if you stop making progress, and we want to make sure that it's not us, that it's something that you're doing or not doing at home, like sleeping or recovering through eating well. And that oftentimes is the biggest problem. That's the reason why people can stop making progress. What are some reasons to do things like unilateral exercise? There's loads of reasons. We've given them already. So things like rehab, prehab, activation, mobility, stretching, things like that are great for unilateral exercises. There's absolutely a place for them. Another reason is just to mix it up for your mind. Physiologically, they're not going to do as much for you as a barbell, but mentally, sometimes it's just a nice break. A change is as good as a rest, isn't that what they say? Some objections to the things that I'm putting forward, I've heard a lot of them. I've heard them over the years. I don't want to lift heavy. I just want to tone. Let me say this really clearly. Toning is the layperson's word for fat loss plus muscle retention. And what retains muscle best? Strength training. You knew that already, didn't you? What stimulates strength best? Barbells. Another one that you often hear, I'm scared. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to get hurt. And that's perfectly fair. I don't want to get hurt either. I don't like pain. Who likes pain? But most injuries happen whenever people lift incorrectly or outside of the gym. A lot of the time people don't look after themselves outside the gym, and then whenever they come in, they're carrying a little niggle and they just carry on as if nothing happened. But properly coached deadlifting is safer than picking up a bin bag or your grandchild with a rounded back, or you're not sitting properly. How often do you hear people, I bent over to pick up a pen and I threw my back out, or I had a sneeze and I threw my back out. It happens so easily. It can happen whether you're in the gym or out of the gym. And if you're afraid of the barbell, good. That's a good thing. It needs to be respected. Heavy weights should be respected. You need to learn how to use it, how to manipulate it with your body, how to train it, because you'll feel more capable, more durable, more confident in your body whenever you do. And the last one is, aren't machines safer? I get that one all the time. Machines are safer in the same way that bubble wrap is safer. But you're not building resilience. You're not building anything else. You're not coordinating multiple joints, multiple muscles. You're not practicing normal human movement patterns. You're artificially moving them. You're not realistically moving them. Safety is important. We take safety very seriously. Safety is one of the most important considerations we have here. But so is adaptation. Barbells would give you both if you're coached well and you train sensibly. How we use barbells in our programs. As I said, most of our clients train 2 to 3 times a week. And we want to make the best use of their time, so that's why we incorporate barbells most of the time. Barbells are the main course. Barbells are the start and the main. Every member, young, old, brand new, seasons, learns how to deadlift. They learn how to squat. They learn how to press. They learn how to use the barbell as a tool and not a weapon to hurt themselves with or others. We start light. We start with empty bar. We build up strength. We train full range of motion, full effective range of motion, I should say. And we adjust to each person's ability and anatomy. So whether that's your 75-year-old grandparent or whether that is a 17-year-old kid. Then we layer in assistance work with purpose. So we do incorporate things like rows and lunges and carries and core work. They support barbell lifts, but they don't replace them. There is no replacement. Sorry to say it. All the millions and billions of pounds they're spending trying to improve and build new equipment, I don't think they're going to improve on a barbell. I think ergonomically it is the best all-round piece of kit that you can have. Every class, every session is built around this theory, this thesis. Compound barbell lifts are the most effective, efficient path to real strength. Everything else you do is a bonus. Everything else you do is just the cherry on the top of the cake. And that's all I've got to say on it, really. To sum it up, barbells build real-world transferable strength. They can be trained and progressed forever. They expose and fix imbalances better than an isolation exercise ever could. They allow us to build resilience, not just aesthetics. And they make you feel like a bit of a badass because they are the ultimate test of strength. The biggest test of strength that you see are with barbells. And it's not that rows, lunges, single leg stuff doesn't matter. It's that they're not the priority and they're not the biggest needle movers. If you want to move better, feel better, age better, and yes, look better, start with a barbell, finish with a barbell, get strong, stay strong, live better. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. And if you found this helpful, please send it to someone who's still doing Bosu ball, single leg squats with dumbbells overhead, or better yet, bring them down to the gym and we'll get them sorted. Until next time, don't forget to train today so you can be stronger tomorrow.